Maria wasted no time leaving Link's place once she handed him his assignment, and Link wasted no time poring over as much of the information as possible. He liked to do some research outside of VR before he went in deep. He liked to call it prepping. For the rest of the day, he sleuthed as many sources as possible. News sites, financial data, he even took the time to analyse the cyber-terrorist motives and threats, right down to the words they used. Whoever they were, it looked as if they were British. The attacks never went anywhere outside of Europe, and the way they used the English language reflected that of a native, rather than a sad, lonely Russian who just run their threats through Google Translate. I'll go surface level for this one, Link thought as he put on his tracking gloves. Never go to the dark web unless absolutely necessary, that's the rule. He then put on his headset, and with just a thought, his system came on. As per usual, a flash of pure blue light lit up his vision before a great virtual world faded into view before him. Many of his clients, police officers, and even Maria had continually asked Link to describe his experiences once the headset was on, but truly, he had never quite been able to. In truth, it was what led him to make the comparison to superheroes, as once he was inside VR, he truly felt like he was a part of the virtual world, and could do things here that no human could in the real world. He would often say that code felt like water, or data felt like wind. This was one of the many reasons he was unable to describe what being in VR was like when asked. The world he saw in front of him were mere ones and zeros, and he was well aware of that, but he had learned that it was his mind that made up what he saw, and after practicing for years, he had finally learned to fully control it. He envisioned a huge, light blue sky with towers and tubes stretching as far as the eye could see. It's a series of tubes, he thought as he chuckled. Well, I guess it is now. The tubes were transport systems, and he knew which tower every single one of them went to. Any way he hadn't found yet had no tube, and anywhere he hadn't found yet had no tower. Okay, before we do any digging, we're going to need to get a lay of the land. He materialized into his virtual avatar, which he had modelled himself as a blue, frizzled, static-like mannequin, with a smug, emoji-esque face. He liked the idea of one of his targets sitting comfortably at their computer, coding a new virus or hacking their way into someone's account, and suddenly having a talking, snide-looking cartoon face pop up on their computer telling them they're about to get arrested. He lifted himself into the air and looked out upon the virtual landscape. This cyber-terrorist seems like the type of person to witness their handiwork, and where better a place to start? He then flew forward and dropped down into one of the tubes, one which led to the official BBC site, which had been covering this story for almost a week now. Once there, he looked to see what IPs were connecting. IP addresses worked differently in Link's VR. Here, they were practically faces of whoever chose to stop by and take a look at this ongoing threat. There were hundreds connecting every minute, yet inside this world, Link could keep up with every single one of them. Most meant nothing to him. Arbitrary passers-by connecting to the site, perhaps in hope of answers or assurance that everything would be okay. But then, in the sea of unrecognizable virtual faces, one popped up that Link was all too familiar with. His name was Mark Pearson, a phone hacker whom Link had caught multiple times in the act. He was only ever arrested and charged twice, and didn't exactly serve a life sentence after he was arrested. Nonetheless, Link knew him well enough, and now he'd become a possible lead. A grin on his virtual face, Link sprung forward and latched onto Pearson's address, before flying up his connection, all the way to his device. Once inside, Link could feel it all. His laptop, I know those settings and features anywhere. He then accessed Pearson's webcam, and was finally able to see him. Pearson hadn't noticed yet. He was still staring at the BBC homepage, an unappealing glazed look on his poorly shaven, pudgy face. It was then when Link decided to make himself known. Pearson's screen snapped into a plain background with Link's smug cartoon face popping into existence in its centre. "Good afternoon, Marky boy." Pearson jumped in his chair.
"Link, what are you doing here?"
"I was about to ask you the same thing. Something about this news story catch your eye?"
Well, yeah, it's been all over the news. Everyone's been talking about it."
"Right. Been a while since I've seen you, Mark. It was about 2 months ago, wasn't it? You were trying to get into the DMs of that girl 4 doors down from you, if I remember. Must have been difficult, seeing how she still had a bedtime and so much homework to do." Pearson's eyes widened and his nostrils flared.
"What the hell do you want, Link?"
"I'm looking for the lonely freak who's been doing all of this. You wouldn't happen to know anything about said lonely freak, would you?"
"Of course not. I ain't no bloody terrorist, for God's sake. You're barking up the wrong tree, you maniac."
Link looked back at the childish sneer on Pearson's face and sighed. "All right, Marky, what'll it be this time?"
"What do you mean?"
Let's see." He then spread his presence throughout Pearson's laptop. See, you've got a whole gallery of pictures here, all hidden away nicely in an encrypted file. Probably worth a lot to you, maybe even to the police. Oh, what's this? Been working on some new code, have we? Looks like it can track phones and redirect messages. That's a first for you, mate. But then again, maybe I'll just fry your whole hard drive. Save us all some time. Pearson, his eyes even wider and his face now a pale white, raised his hands and placed them together.
Link,
he begged.
Please don't. Just leave me alone.
Then give me something I can use or I'll find out who the girl in this photo is, the one with the pigtails in the school bag.
All right. There was a subreddit that was taken down a month or so ago. One of those little smash the institution pockets of the internet, you know? I checked in with them once or twice out of curiosity. By the end of it, they were talking about banks, how controlling them would control the system. Before the page got deleted entirely, they said they were moving to a new domain. Frangit ratio, I think it was called.
Link raised a virtual eyebrow. Frangit ratio? Pearson grimaced and shrugged.
Meant to be Latin or some rubbish. But that's all I know, I swear. Just Google the name or whatever it is you do and just leave me alone.
Link said before resuming his trademark simulated smug. Thanks, Marky boy. Much appreciated. Be seeing you. And with a final scowl from Pearson, Link disconnected from Mark's computer and returned to his hub world. He took Pearson's advice and ran the domain name through Google. He had to jump through a few pages before he found something that looked promising, a website with the domain name. Once connected, he had his answer. He smiled and cracked his virtual knuckles, knowing that what was about to happen next was not going to be pretty.